Of course, I am in the 80s. I have my own career. Yeah, so it was very hard to work with the wedges and stuff, but we know.
I'd like to introduce some friends of mine to you. Would you welcome Mr. Robert Plant, Mr. Jimmy Page, Mr. John
This is Robert Townsend. I'm backstage, and like I said, we're going to talk to Robert Plant in a minute, but everybody's here. Bob Geldof is standing right here. How are you?
On 8, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, it's 1983. Happy New Year. Happy New Year.
Perfect, fucking fabulous, right. Hey, let's go over to this side of the stage and see what's happening, shall we? I'm not going unless you make me, am I? Mr. Robert Plant, ladies and gentlemen.
Robert Plant recorded his second solo album in 1983, with Robbie Blunt on guitar and a more prominent producer role from Phil Collins at his prime. The 1983 version of Collins was a beast. His body of work up to this point is what many musicians can only dream of. From Genesis' finest progressive rock moments to Peter Gabriel's solo material and Just Fusion Giants' Brand X, the man was on fire for almost 20 years. Looking back 10 years before, nobody could predict the kind of career Phil Collins would have as a drummer, singer, producer, international superstar for not one but two bands. His success cannot be overlooked. Critics who say the 80s saw an overexposure of Collins try to downplay his genius, like his famous drum sound featured on so many songs, including the 1981 hit song he produced for Frida, There's Something Going On.
We told many people that I was going to make a solo album and asked if some of the composers, if they were interested to write songs for me. I think I've been listening to about 500 songs since we decided to do this.
Okie doke. A little bit of guitar, please.
First 2 or 3 weeks in the studio, no one stopped laughing, and that was very important.
Hold on, let me pause that for a second. As you know, my previous video series was on the making of In Through the Outdoor. Finding actual footage of Polar Studios is a personal treasure. And yes, that is the actual Yamaha GX1 keyboard used by John Paul Jones on the 1978 sessions. That is the same keyboard we hear on In the Evening, Carouselambra, All My Love, and I'm Gonna Crawl. Anyway, back to the story.
And it definitely, it loosened everybody up. And it was easy to say something was crap because there was a lot of laughing going on if it was crap, It wasn't like vibes are bad, I can't say anything.
All right.
Okay.
Let's have a crack playing it through them.
His impact on the 80s cannot be underestimated. Robert Plant struck gold with this collaboration. As great as his stage presence and distinct vocal style is, he creates his best material when surrounded by a great team. Phil Collins recorded Genesis' self-titled 12th studio album in the spring of '83, including tracks like Mama, with its iconic drum beat and sinister intro, a great transition by a 70s prog rock band into 80s pop. The sister song of In the Air Tonight, taken to a new height of pain, despair and surrender. If In the Air Tonight is a song about divorce, this one is about facing personal demons after bleeding out in family court and battling emotional codependence of female pedestals and the illusion of love. I need to make a whole video on the song. Other tracks from the album, Home by the Sea, Just a Job to Do, and It's Gonna Get Better, would shape the decade's color palette. Hard to think they went into the studio with no ideas, and the stuff just came out from long jam sessions.
No.
It's not much good then, is it?
Well, it's not much good for you, but it's good for me. No. Hang on, the automatic focus is on.
Collins' rhythm and aesthetic studio expertise elevated Robert's material and live solo artist performance.
And I was helped absolutely admirably by Phil Collins, who came along. He was also on Atlantic Records, and he came along and he said, John Bonham was probably the most important influence in my life. He said, I'll sit in that stool for you. So he came down and we did on both Pictures at 11 and Principle of Moments. He was an absolute restrained powerhouse with enthusiasm, unending energy and lots of humor, and we had really great fun. Then he came on tour with us. He said, I can do this for a month, and that was when In the Air Tonight was just breaking. He gave everybody a coating every night on the bus for playing too slow, and of course they smooth and cool, you could call the other guys, but Phil was having none of it. He'd stand up on the drum riser with his sticks in his hand and go, get it right, come on, let's go.
There's a date with danger in half an hour on BBC One when a veteran American liner runs into trouble during the last voyage. That's after tonight's pop quiz introduced by Mike Reed.
Hello, and tonight's skippers are Bev Bevan and Robert Plant. Firstly to Robert's team from Bananarama, Sarah. And on the other end, a man who's been here before, ex-squeeze man Glenn Tilbrook. And their skipper come back for a third try, Robert Plant. They're playing Bev Bevan's team, who are Andy Mackay from Roxy Music, Dave Garn from Depeche Mode, and another man who's seen fit to come back again, Bev Bevan from ELO. Right, an individual. Victorious skipper who doubtless will be back again, Robert Plant. On the final pop quiz in this series next week, we have Francis Rossi from Status Quo.
Thank you. Led Zeppelin was the most successful rock and roll group in the world for 12 years. In 1980, the group's drummer, John Bonham, died at 32, and the Led Zeppelin disbanded. Robert Plant was Led Zeppelin's lead singer and author of many of the group's hit songs. In 1982, Robert Plant released his first solo album. It was called Pictures at 11. Now he's arrived on our shores with his second solo album. The new album is called The Principle of Moments. What does that mean?
It's a law of physics.
Oh.
It's a law of balance, a law of equilibrium. And it seems pretty apt for me right now.
Because you're at a moment of equilibrium?
I guess I'm Maybe. What am I doing here? Perhaps I am, perhaps I'm not.
I'd like to talk to you a little bit about motivation, because you have had an unusual experience of being with this tremendously successful group that was a phenomenon, and then having it disappear in a certain sense, just it was over, and you have to now find a new road for yourself.
Well, I either have to or I needn't bother.
You could have retired to your farm. And
I don't think people can actually retire once they've got the bug or the spirit or whatever it is.
The new album, which is due out pretty soon, as a matter of fact, called The Principle of Moments. Let me give you a look at the album cover. Real neat looking album cover. And I should ask, while they're looking at that, why Principle of Moments?
Really, if anybody did any physics at school, it wouldn't take them long to work it out. The Principle of Moments is a law of physics related to equilibrium, balance. And I think it's probably taken me a while, but maybe I'm just beginning to understand what equilibrium and balance is. So it's pretty topical. Also, it's got 1,000 meanings if you want it to, you know. The only different person is, there were two drummers on the first record, Phil Collins and Cozy Powell. This time it's Phil and a guy called Barry Barlow, who spent years and years and tour after tour with Jethro Tull.
And the good news for us here at MTV is that there is going to be a video for which one?
I think, well, I know definitely what it's going to be Big Log, which is the last cut on song.
Spanish guitar-y feel to it, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's a very wistful song. It sort of rounds the whole album up at the end.
Yeah.
You know, like when you get the credits going over a movie at the end of the day, and the hero, whatever it is walking off into the sunset. Well, it's one of the, it has that feel, and yet, besides that, it's got a lot to say about me. I've still got a little bit of a working relationship with the remnants of a company called Hypnosis that used to do the Zeppelin album covers and the Floyd album covers and McCartney and whatnot. And they obviously have moved into video, being mercenaries. And
these are people who've just done probably a great video for you, and you say that about them on national television, Robert?
No, yeah, I'd say they're probably going to watch it. Well, you don't know what it's like to be directed and pushed and pulled throughout half the Californian desert, you know. But they are, because of their background and their history and their ability to refer to that many different points in time and place, they're remarkable for locations and things like that.
When are we going to have it?
By about Wednesday it'll be ready, the week Wednesday. So I don't know when this is going out.
So hopefully we're gonna have it here in the United States within the next couple of weeks. That's
I would
fairly
imagine
safe.
so, yeah.
Let me give you a look at the back. And
the way it is now, both for me and for Jimmy, if you like, is that if Jimmy decides to work shortly, which I think he probably will, then neither of us are in the position where we should go out and wring some more life out of communication breakdown and a whole lot of love and Stairway to Heaven and all. So it had to be, for me as an artist, if you like, if that's, I can be roughly called that, or a rough artist, I've really got to do it all over again. And that is the challenge. I mean, without that challenge, I might as well go to Vegas and do cabaret. And there are a lot of rock and rollers doing that. I've just been there.
There's rock and rollers in Las Vegas? We don't ever want to see you there.
You watch it, it's going to happen. It won't happen for me.
Show the concert dates for this. Be aware that Robert is going to be on tour here in the United States, and while you at home are looking at the concert dates, who is going to be in the band? The same people who were on the record?
Yeah, Robbie Blunt, guitar, Paul Martinez, bass, Jez Woodruff, keyboards. On this leg of an American
US tour,
Phil Collins will play drums.
But that's not the case for Europe, am I right? Or?
No, there's another, well, as we talk, on Friday here, or whatever day it is here, the band are rehearsing in London with another drummer, an American. And I also have an American playing second guitar and keyboards, Bob Mayer from Foreigner and Aerosmith and Frampton, who's excellent. When a body is in equilibrium under the action of a number of forces, the sum of the clockwise moments about the fulcrum or any point is equal to the sum of the anti-clockwise moments about that fulcrum or that same point. And I remember that from when I was about 12, so there must be somebody out there who understands it too. It's just balance, keep it all together.
Take that, Sting.
Yeah, where are you? But I'll see you about 8 o'clock somewhere in Milwaukee or something like that.
Watch for Robert on tour and watch for the video, Big Log, and the new record. It's been a pleasure.
And you too. Great.
The Principle of Moments was released on July 11th, 1983, through Robert Plant's new record label, Esperanza, a play on words for Esperanza in Spanish, which means hope. Great rhythms, tasteful guitar sounds, well-thought arrangements, and Robert's confidence finding solid ground at age 35. From the opening tune Other Arms, with its Clapton-inspired groove and catchy chorus, to the reggae pop construction of Messin' with a Mekon, Principle of Moments lives up and creates new expectations. Robert finds his path. The band works as a tight and cohesive unit. Jethro Tull's own Barrymore Barlow plays on Reckless Love and the experimental Stranger Here Than Over There to great effect, providing a deceptive backbeat in the same progressive rock roots of Collins. Track 5, Through with the Two-Step, features full 80s synthesizer work courtesy of Gerald Woodruff, a sincere synth-pop ballad lost in time with Collins' classic drum fills, or should I say, Phil's Collins. The ending features elements of progressive rock's displaced rhythms and accents. Phil Collins' heavy hand attack is like Robert's vocal style. You know it's him within seconds. Track 6, Horizontal Departure, continues their reggae experiments. You can tell the Police and Stuart Copeland's work had a great impact on the band.
It's very comfortable being here, but I would like you to give my friends a real warm Texas welcome. On bass guitar, Mr. Paul Martinez. On guitar, keyboards and backing vocals from Houston, Texas, Mr. Bob Mayo. Now another gentleman who's not from Houston but from somewhere beginning with H. On drums, Mr. Philip Charles Cast. Philip Charles Collins. On trumpet, Philip Collins. On keyboards from Welsh School in Wales, a man who doesn't come from Houston, but last night went out with a girl whose initials began with H, Mr. Jez Woodruff. And on guitar, a man who is serious, frugal, and never buys a drink, a man who's a very warm person, a great songwriter, and a man who can get very embarrassed but never will, Mr. Robbie Blunt.
In the Mood, a showstopper, show stealer, in the greater scheme of all things 80s, a perfect marriage of good intentions, going back, going forward, walking simultaneously in the warmth of experience, regret, hope, and release. Paul Martinez's bass line enchants the listener like a trance, an invitation for mindfulness. Robbie Blunt's guitar adds timeless embellishments, not overplaying, but conquering the principle of notes and good taste. As a Led Zeppelin and Genesis fan, this is one of the greatest gifts of the 80s. Phil Collins' commanding drum groove and Robert's minimalist approach, so simple, yet profound, playful, caring enough to get you hooked, careless enough to flow in the mood for a melody.